Hello and welcome to Newsroom. I'm your host Rafae Iqbal, and in today's show we'll be deliberating on two very important topics and two news of the day. If we talk about the segments that we'll be discussing, first segment that we'll be talking about revolves around Pakistan-US ties. One of the biggest trade partners of Pakistan, United States and Pakistan's trade stood at an estimated $7.3 billion in the year 2024. It is a strategic partnership that exists between both the countries, as well as Pakistan laying down countless lives in the war against terror, as it was a strategic ally of the United States in this war. Now, with Donald Trump in the Oval Office, developments are expected as how this relationship will move on further and how it is going to develop further. There were a lot of speculations regarding how Donald Trump's new policies will affect the relationship with Pakistan. But as we're seeing, as time unfolds and as the policies unfold, we're seeing that these ties are growing further and further. With regards to that, the Deputy Prime Minister Saqdar, who is also on a visit to New York, and while he was wrapping up his visit, he gave a statement and where he maintained that relations between Pakistan and the United States were going very good. This is a testament, this statement by the Deputy Prime Minister, as how these ties between both the countries and how the strategic partnership between both the countries is growing further and will continue to do so in the times to come, with Donald Trump now in office and the new policies that he is making, as Pakistan has been a strategic ally and of course Pakistan has laid down countless lives in the war against terror. We also see that there's geopolitical tensions with regards to terrorism that are emanating from Afghan soil, and Pakistan has constantly raised this issue on international fora as well. With regards to that, we also know that there's a lot of effort being done for economic activity in the country to increase and attract foreign direct investment. That also brings us to the second topic that we'll be discussing with regards to IMF and Pakistan to open $1 billion of climate finance talks. Well, if we talk about climate financing, it is a global phenomena that has affected Pakistan the most, as Pakistan, being less than 1% contributor to the global carbon emissions, still faces this brunt. We go back to 2022 when Pakistan faced monsoon on steroids. There were floods in Balochistan and Sindh, along with different other parts of the country, which wreaked havoc, not only causing property damage and loss, but also causing loss of human life, livestock, and causing food insecurity in the country as well. With regards to that, an IMF mission will arrive in Islamabad next week to discuss $1 billion in climate financing for Pakistan. Pakistan had made a formal request in October last year for this climate financing of $1 billion. Pakistan's lawmakers have called for a structural framework with regards to climate financing to ensure that climate justice is ensured, as Pakistan, as I've mentioned earlier as well, contributing less than 1% to the global carbon emissions, still faces the brunt of this global phenomena. Of course, these are the different topics that we'll be discussing in our two segments. Now, if we talk about the news, the top news that we have for the day, we'll be talking about how in the first news segment we have the International Mother Language Day, which is being observed today. A Silver Jubilee celebration of International Mother's Day is being celebrated today. The day underscores the role of languages in achieving sustainable development goals. The day also reinforces significance of linguistic diversity and how this is essential in fostering communication and cohesion in the world at large. Pakistan Mother Languages Festival Day is also being observed. In the second news item that we have for the day, we'll be talking about the Delta air crash that happened and, of course, how Delta is compensating the victims of that crash. Delta has offered $30,000 each to Toronto plane crash passengers. The Delta Airlines plane hit a runway at Toronto's main airport, after which the plane had turned upside down. 21 passengers were injured in this accident, according to Delta Airlines, and Canada's Transportation Safety Board has launched an investigation into this accident. Well, that was the top news that we'll be deliberating on, and the two segments that we'll be deliberating on with regards to the first topic that we have, Pakistan-US ties. On Skype, we've been joined by our guest, Dr.Jamil Khan, former ambassador. Thank you for your time, sir, and being part of the conversation. Of course, Pakistan-US relations, a lot of speculations before Donald Trump had taken the oath. With regards to how the ties are going to be with Pakistan, how the relationship is going to develop further, how do you comment on how the relationship is going up till now and the speculations that were being made?
I think we are navigating it in the right direction. The new administration, the new president of United States, the new policy of United States, most of the countries, rather all the countries of the world, they are trying to align their foreign policy. And the foreign policy is basically a dynamic policy of any country, including United States, that they try and adjust with what is happening around the world and what suits the best to their people and to their country. So, of course, we are also aligning our foreign policy in view of so many other things, the regional geopolitical situation, the global geopolitical situation, and the new change in the U.S. administration as regard with the Pakistan-U.S. relations. Pakistan-U.S. relations, we've been having, we have a very old and a very structured relation we've been having. And sometime, there were some difficulties, but that was also ironed out. And we quite understand, and we quite understand the situation about the China-US and its allies competition. So that competition goes on, and the countries which are allies aligned with string of pearls and a string of alliance. A string of alliance means the U.S. and its countries which are allied, such as Philippines, India, Japan, Australia, and China is a string of pearls. But despite being the fact that China is our best of the best friends, we have never lost the sight of our relations with United States. United States is our best destination of export, as you in your intro have yourself mentioned about the highest figure of our earning in terms of the export to United Nations. And there's so much of a scope. As a matter of fact, as the Federation of Chamber of Commerce and Industry, it says just a few days ago that there is a potential to double this export to the United States. And the United States...
Doctor, definitely, Ambassador Jamil, as you mentioned, it's a relationship that covers a very wide array of scope, but we'll break that relationship down with regards to the different scope it does touch upon. So, Pakistan and United States, strategic partners in the war against terror. Of course, with the Trump administration in place now, how do you think the security and defense cooperation could move further with regards to Pakistan already raising this issue on the international fora? How there's Afghan soil being used to create security instability in the region?
Well, our Deputy Prime Minister and the Foreign Minister, he raised this point there and during his stay and during his interaction with the media. And he was very categorical. He was very candid in saying that Pakistan would continue to urge Afghanistan to control TTP activities. In fact, this is what the entire world is saying. And this is what the United Nations Security Council monitoring team in its report has mentioned, that TTP and the other groups also, they're using Afghan soil. So it's not only the concern of Pakistan. Of course, Pakistan being the most affected country has to raise that point, and Pakistan has to navigate it in a very sophisticated manner, because Afghanistan is our neighbor, like Iran and like China. So, Afghanistan, we've been really taking care of Afghan Taliban last about 30 years. And if there is any problem in the relations because of the TTP, Pakistan is trying, and our Foreign Minister and Deputy Prime Minister, he is going to visit Afghanistan, as he stated during his interaction with the media. So this is vertical and horizontal approach. This is the multidimensional approach. We would keep engaged with the Afghan Taliban. This is what the Foreign Minister was also saying. And at the same time, we'll keep urging Afghanistan to fulfill its obligation. And what are those obligations? It starts from the Doha Agreement. Para 2 of the Doha Agreement is very clear and candid. It says that Afghan soil would not be used by any terrorist group. which is being used. It's not only Doha Agreement. Doha Agreement is bilateral agreement. We understand that between the U.S. and Afghanistan, but that has been endorsed by the Security Council, and the Security Council urged the same thing in its resolution back in 2022 and later on also. So what we are asking, it's the resolution, it's the international law, and this is what we are asking Afghanistan. But at the same time, we have to also dive deep into the problems of Afghan Taliban. Are Afghan Taliban in a full control of Afghanistan? Well, one could debate it. Are Afghan Taliban having full resources to control all these terrorist groups? That's the second question. I would say they are not. Now, the third question is that they've been fighting shoulder to shoulder with these comrades who are now the terrorists. And there is a whole lot of history. I can enumerate all the points of the history, how they became from Mujahideen to terrorists. But then now the fact of the matter is that Pakistan is directly impacted and affected out there.
Yes.
What? During her testification in front of the Foreign Committee, Foreign Relations Committee of the Senate, she said that how they abandoned Pakistan, how they did not really take care of the rehabilitation.
Exactly. That, Ambassador Jamil, that brings me to another point and I'm saying this because we also have a little time left for the segment. When we talk about strategic allies and when we talk about security, Pakistan has been talking about how India has been carrying out extrajudicial killings, extraterritorial killings, how it has been involved in those secret acts of violence, not just in Pakistan but throughout the world. We understand that India is a strategic ally of the U.S. at the moment, but the U.S. has also foiled an attempt by the Indian agencies, an assassination attempt that was targeting a Sikh leader in the United States. Canada has also raised the same issue. The same issue was raised by Five Eyes. Of course, Pakistan has been raising this issue since a very long time. How do you comment on that with now the U.S. and its allies also talking about India, one of its strategic allies, carrying out extrajudicial and extraterritorial killings in their host countries?
The case is already in the court, and the United States, despite having a good bilateral relations with India, and despite having its interest, the geopolitical interest in India now, we understand that. But even then, they've been able to send the case to the court. And even then, they have made comments that, yes, Poonam, who is the Sikh leader, he was almost killed. It was just the detection of the U.S. agencies that they detected it on time and they were able to save their citizen who happened to be Sikh. But that is not the single story. It has happened in UK. Few Sikh leaders were killed, and it has happened. The more important thing is never in the world history, a prime minister of a country on the floor of the House enumerates the whole story of the murder conducted by a foreign country, which was India. That is, I'm talking about Canada. And the Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, on the floor of the House in the Assembly, mentioned and gave all the evidence, by the way, that how it happened. And then later on, a complete investigation took place. And then those people who were involved, like in the United States, they were all set. But then the story doesn't end there. See how India covertly was operating the infotech. And there were about 700 outlets in the Europe. And they were just bombarding with the social media against China, Pakistan, and some other country. So they are now quite used to it. And in Pakistan, there are about 20 assassination Indian agencies have conducted here in Pakistan. And we have sent that dossier to the United Nations as well in the world. Now, what is needed by Pakistan and Pakistan Foreign Office is that we should try and connect what they've been doing in Pakistan or what they've been doing in Canada or what they've been doing in United States. It's the sequence of the same foreign policy of India, that assassination, transnational terrorism, that can never be tolerated. The fact of the matter is that, yes, we understand that like Religious Freedom Commission report of United States, India is getting away from the human right violation of Kashmir, from the violation of the religious freedom, and from the violation of the international law where they are conducting the transnational terrorism. But then,
Definitely, most
obviously,
certainly.
all
That's a very important point that you raised. Of course, the United States being champions of democracy, while their strategic allies are the ones that violate the human rights themselves. There's another point that comes to mind with regards to diplomacy, and I'm talking about sports diplomacy. As the Interior Minister and Chairman of the Pakistan Cricket Board, Mohsin Naqvi was also in America recently, and he invited the American cricket delegation to visit Pakistan and watch the cricket matches of the ICC Champions Trophy that Pakistan is hosting after almost 3 decades. How important do you think, with America having a new entry into the cricketing world, the sports diplomacy will play effect in the bilateral relations between both the countries as well?
Well, sports diplomacy comes under the public diplomacy domain, and any country for that matter would be very happy to have that success in the public diplomacy. Yes, the American team coming to Pakistan is a sports diplomacy, which comes, as I said, under the domain of the public diplomacy. And Pakistan definitely would enhance its public image and enhance its international image, and would also be able to prove the world that despite all these difficulties from Afghanistan and from other countries, Pakistan security apparatus are in a position to conduct such mega events, such as SCO. SCO was another mega event which Pakistan conducted trouble-free, without any problem. And with all the propaganda which our enemies have been making against us, that Pakistan is not in a position, they're not capable to handle their situation, they're not capable to look after the security. But we proved it during the SCO, we proved it during the high power delegation, we proved it during the visits of the head of states, and we have proved it during this matches. So therefore, this not only gives you better public diplomacy advantage, but also it is a testimony of how a country in a well-structured manner is managing its various tentacles of the governance and public administration. Pakistan, despite all these difficulties.
And Pakistan is committed to that, but there's one element that I'd also like to discuss with you with regards to the new U.S. President's policies. With regards to the tariff wars and trade wars that we're seeing. It is affecting one of the countries that is also our neighbor, and we are having an economic corridor with that as well. I'm talking about China, how the US president has talked about imposing tariffs on China, Canada, different countries. But how do you think Pakistan fits into this equation and balancing the relationship between both of these superpowers?
Well, Pakistan is not really impacted and affected by the trade war. If we are talking about the trade war, then Pakistan can navigate and bring the entire scenario of trade war into its advantage. There are more than 38,000 outlets of the dollar stores, and those products which are sold, as all of us, most of us who have seen United States and the dollar stores, they're filled with the Chinese stuff, and quite a few of those items are being manufactured in Pakistan, and our Pakistani traders and Pakistani manufacturers, they can really capitalize that. That's one part. If you're talking about the geopolitical advantages and disadvantages, yes, it is a sensitive matter because the US and China competition. But the good news is that despite all that thing, the latest news pouring in, the latest news coming in and emerging, it says that they are entering into a negotiation, and that negotiation just to lead into the situation where it's a win-win game, because the United States has also realized that this trade war would really cause so much of pain to the consumers of United States, because all what is being imported, they were being provided to the people who lived paycheck to paycheck, who are not that affluent to afford the high prices in those dollar stores where they could just manage their budget. They would go out of their budget. So United States, the very recent news, today's news, it's encouraging that they are trying to iron out, and they are trying to really have the trade tariff after the negotiation. So that initial announcement seems to be, just a negotiation tool, like a negotiation tool which happened with the Canada and the Mexico. And now they are, of course, one month suspension of that tariff, what was imposed, and also some of the conditions which the United States had the sovereign right to ask the neighboring countries that the immigrants, illegal immigrants and the drug trafficking and all that should be controlled. Like we are asking the Taliban that, they should control their borders and they should not allow their soil to be used by the terrorists. And likewise, Mr. Trump, who is the president of the United States, is asking Mexico and Canada that, illegal immigrants should be stopped and the drugs should be stopped. And by the way, they have complied with the demands of the United States, which they have the sovereign right to ask, like we are asking Taliban. So now 10,000 troops have been deployed on the Mexico border and Mexico and the United States border, and a large number of troops have been deployed on the Canadian and US border just to control it, and rightly so. So any country, whether it's Trump, Donald Trump, or anyone else, they should protect the interest of their own country and people of their own country. So Donald Trump, you good, bad, or worse, whatever people think, whatever the other nations think, but he would try and do to his effort, the best of efforts he will try to make, whatever he has been saying during the campaign. And during the campaign, whatever promises he has made, he is trying to implement it. Well, it may not really be...
A flurry of executive orders and a flurry of developments. We'll see how they unfold as time moves on. Dr. Jamil Ahmed Khan, former ambassador, thank you for your time and being part of the conversation. Your views are always appreciated. And with that, moving towards our second segment, when we talk about the US President Donald Trump and his policies, there's one policy with regards to climate financing that he just announced very recently, and that was also a part of his campaign. The US pulling out of the Paris Agreement of 2015, which focused on climate financing, which focused on climate justice and fund for resilient infrastructure. Of course, this policy and this announcement by Donald Trump, it has shocked the world community. How? Because climate change is a global phenomena. When we talk about Pakistan in particular, less than 1% contributor to the global carbon emissions, but still facing the brunt of this climate change. Back in 2022, the country faced monsoon on steroids. There were floods in two provinces, which wreaked havoc and proved devastating for the entire country and causing food insecurity as well. To talk about climate change and Donald Trump's policies regarding that, and of course how it is affecting Pakistan, in the studios we've been joined by Dr. Pervaiz, who is an environmentalist, and we've been joined by Munir, who is a climate advocacy expert. I'd like to thank you both for your time and being part of the conversation. Starting off from Dr. Pervaiz. So, Pakistan, being less than 1% contributor to global carbon emissions, still faces the brunt of it. When we talk about climate financing, an IMF mission is to arrive in Islamabad next week, and as Pakistan had made a formal request for $1 billion in climate financing. How do you think this framework should be further streamlined, as Pakistan's lawmakers have called for a structured framework with regards to climate financing so it can be disbursed in a more transparent manner? And secondly, how do you think the global carbon markets are also adding up for Pakistan's equation?
I think this is this particular fund which you're talking about is primarily going to look at resilience. The money is basically available to cater for resilience. And while Pakistan has additional facilities also, we recently got $40 billion, $20 billion for IFC and $20 billion in health and the other areas. There are cross-cutting themes which will also impact the areas of climate change. I think it's a good stand, and the real question becomes the delivery of that money. There are a lot of promises. We recently had COP29 and a lot of promises were made in Baku and other places. And then as you said that Mr. Trump, they pulled out, and that's a very significant thing. And you look at the geopolitics, Trump pulling out, and then what's going on in Europe, what's happening between Russia and Ukraine. All of these things are going to affect what's happening in Gaza. I mean, the stances which are being taken in Gaza. All that has major implications for financing. So Pakistan, I think, should grab what it can get its hands on. The terms are very good. I've looked at the basic premises of the negotiation. The terms are good. It's over a 20-year period we have to pay back, and the interest rate is quite low. On the other hand, everybody is worried, and that includes me, how that money gets spent. We don't want that money into the kitty of the government of Pakistan. We want that money coming in a phased manner, and specifically where there is going to be returns to that investment. It should not be taken as that, okay, Pakistan gets $1 billion and we, every week we are talking about billions of dollars, you know, that this is coming, this is coming. It shouldn't be viewed in that instance. It should be, a very mature view should be taken on that. And my feeling is that this should also be co-jointly with the other sources of funding, like ADB. ADB put in around $550 million also into climate change. So let's have an overall landscape, you know, where that money is going to go and what can we expect that to come out for Pakistan, both in mitigation and adaptation.
Definitely. Important points raised. Mr. Munir Ahmed, how do you comment on the climate change, how it's affecting Pakistan, the IMF mission arriving in Pakistan, and Donald Trump's withdrawal from the Paris Agreement?
Yeah. First of all, President Donald Trump, he did again, like back out of the Paris Agreement, and it would be a severe dent to the entire climate regime, like where we talk about adaptation and mitigation things. But because it's not only the United States that backed out, but you see, like in COP29, President Joe Biden, he refused to go there. And meanwhile, 12 other leaders, they also, you know,
followed suit.
Yeah, followed the suit, and total 13 largest countries, the contributor of 70% of greenhouse gas emissions, they, you know, left the COP29 in the doldrums. And this situation is going to worse. And the Brazil COP certainly would be very like facing serious challenge in the absence of US, because many other countries will also follow the suit. And this is the situation where the Paris Agreement, Green Climate Fund, and Loss and Damage Fund, and so many other, several other commitments will not be honored. And this would leave the Earth planet into doldrums. Like we are left with 4.5 years. At the point then, we will not be able to reverse the carbon emission, you know, the climate impact in global warming, and then after 4.5 years, if we could not take anything serious, it would keep on multiplying very rapidly. This is the situation. Secondly, Pakistan. Pakistan was quite, you know, its role was pertinent in diplomacy on loss and damage fund, and has been literally begging different states and different forums to get funds for adaptation, and most of the funds go to mitigation, because every year we face so many problems. 2022 floods, still we are facing the brunt of and the people are not rehabilitated, and the shelters are not provided, and so many, you know, it's like a huge agenda that we still have to follow. And meanwhile, the $1 billion, and as Dr. Pervaiz Saab mentioned, a couple of other windows of funding. After securing funding is a challenge. The bigger challenge is the implementation, or like spending the money. Most of the funds that comes to Pakistan, I don't know what is the problem, but we spend the money, but the required results are not attained. So I believe, like at this moment, we shall have a multi-stakeholder mechanism to use these funds, and we need to identify vulnerable clusters where these funds shall be executed in the participation of local governors and local communities. And I believe like when you spend some money in the consensus of, with the consensus of local communities, they also contribute to it in kind, or like they own it and they make it more sustainable. So that is most desirable thing that we need to do. And another thing that we need to do is we spend more money in adaptation, like rather than mitigation. Preemptive measures are more important in the climate regime, and we know where the problem is, and repeatedly we have been faced the challenges from those hotspots. So we need to focus there. Okay, what are the causes? For example, the glove phenomena, we know $37 million have been spent on to combat glove phenomena, but unfortunately glove lakes have been increased, disasters are increasing. So and we know the deforestation in rate of deforestation is quite high in Pakistan. On the one side, we say our carbon emissions are less than 1% or around 1%, but on the other hand, we never count the devastation that we do with the nature. So I think these steps also be taken care of.
Definitely preemptive measures. I'd like to include comments from Dr. Pervaiz on that as well. So when we talk about, as Mr. Munir mentioned, I'd like your comments with regards to how the conversation has shaped up. And secondly, I would like your comment on how there's this difference between the developing world and the developed world, and how the developed world is more responsible for the climate change issue than the developing world. And we see that different communities, if we talk about the 2022 floods in Pakistan, it not just caused property damage, property loss, it caused loss of human life, it caused food insecurity in the country, and it caused food insecurity in the shape of agricultural damage and livestock damage as well. How do you think this issue could be raised more effectively with regards to help with the media and social media, and made the international community, the world community, take cognizance of the plight that the developing world is facing because of the actions that the developed world has taken over the past decades?
I think the realization is very much there. I've been attending these COPs as Pakistan's lead negotiator on the adaptation track, so I'm fairly aware. Earlier on, we felt very clearly three things. First of all, that this 1.5 degree benchmark which they were saying, I was very clear on that this was all hogwash, this was not going to go anywhere. We are going to be seeing 3.5 to 4 degrees rise in temperature. And then they started, each year whenever you have a COP, they sort of change that ballot, that, oh, it's not 1.5, it will be 2. It's very, very serious.
Tomato.
Yeah, tomato. And so you always want to go to another COP, either it's Mexico or wherever, so that part I can understand. On the other hand, the realization is there. All the countries realize. You see, one of the realizing countries, they just pulled out. 12 followed suit. They are absolutely not serious about this thing. Everybody wants to fend for itself. If it comes to mitigation, it is the West which is more into that. The Japanese say, well, let us continue with our growth rate. We don't want that. We are willing to give you these carbon credits, so you do something, and okay, we'll sort of see you over there. Same goes for Europe. When it comes to sharing technology, they are very stingy on that. The worst part which is going to happen, 90% of research which goes into climate change is from the United States. If you look at all the journals and all the publications which come out, they're coming out of the US. So once it's pulling out, what is going to happen? You're not going to have that scientific intellectual base which is required to fight a challenging situation like climate change, So my feeling is that it's slightly sad. Money is one aspect, that we're always looking at more money and more money. I want to add to what you're saying is that we're talking about something like 0.6. I mean, it's not 1%, it's about 0.6. That's the Pakistan's contribution to the, so slightly we are even better over there. We're 135th in the world. The most worrisome part is that the most recent report which I saw about 2 3 weeks back, The deaths from climate change are attributed mostly to Pakistan. If you look at the overall data, maybe 15 people died in Europe or 12 died. Or if you look at the 1700 or 2000 numbers, those deaths are coming in vulnerable countries like Pakistan. So we are going to face much more of that vulnerability aspect. And while we keep on going to 2022, that flood, I see much more coming. I see a very, very bad situation coming with the drought. Even this year, what you're saying is we are 40% less on water. My focus basically goes to two areas for the immediate impact. One is water. Whichever way you look at climate change, it is water. The other area is going to be agriculture. These are two main areas where Pakistan needs to put its kitty. Whatever money it gets, that's where that money has to go in.
Water and agriculture, two very important points raised by Dr. Pervaiz. Amir, as we talk about climate change and its effects on Pakistan. We have more, but right after a short break. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Continuing with the conversation, as Dr. Pervaiz mentioned, water and agriculture as the two main highlights that Pakistan should invest on. I'd like comment from Mr. Munir as well with regards to climate advocacy. So when we talk about this global phenomena and we talk about the solutions, but as the conversation has shaped up, those really responsible for this global phenomena aren't taking it as seriously as they should. What do you think could be a solution to that?
Dr. Saab is quite right. We need to invest on water development and management. In the last era of Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif, Dr. Saab would endorse, Prime Minister approved national water policy somewhere in March 2018, and that is dusting, in the shelves, and we did not open that, and not even a fraction of that policy was implemented. And it deals both issues on priority basis, water development and management and agriculture. And like, on the other hand, I don't know, we have a couple of organizations working on climate smart agriculture. And for many years, they were trying to develop seeds like that requires less water, because most of our water is, used in agriculture sector. And but unfortunately, we have so many good documents, very comprehensive documents, but where the action comes in, we lack that. If that policy is taken out of the shelves, and I just try to make some action points based on that, I think we will have much more water. The floods, I believe, in one sense, if we store that water and we channelize that water, as China has done, they have converted floods into reservoirs. So they have built thousands of dams, and we have just a couple of dams there, and some of our dams have become quite controversial. So I think we need a political will to do it, and we need to take experts on board to implement the policy frameworks that we have approved. Thirdly, we need to take strict actions against those who are violating certain frameworks. For example, those who are the cause of the floods. So we need to take strict measures against those. And secondly, the loss of infrastructure and lives. Basically, it is that those living or constructing buildings on the banks of rivers and the catchment area of the rivers, those are affected. So we need to take some action that those people shall not come again on the water courses.
Anti-encroachment rights as well. Well, those are very important points that you, both of our panelists raised, Dr. Pervaiz, environmentalist, and Mr. Munir Ahmed, climate advocacy expert, as we were talking about climate change, how it is affecting Pakistan, as the IMF mission is due to arrive in Islamabad next week. And with regards to that, a $1 billion climate financing is to be secured. I'd like to thank both of our panelists and for the valuable insights and their contribution in the topic, Mr. Munir Ahmed and Dr. Pervaiz Amir. Talking about climate change, we know this is a global phenomena and it is affecting not just Pakistan but the world over. But we see, however, that the world community, those nations responsible for the developing world that was responsible for this global phenomena, is not taking it as seriously, and the brunt is being faced by the developing world. Moving towards the top news that we have for today, it also talks about International Mother Language Day, which is being observed today across the globe, including Pakistan. The theme for International Mother Language Day 2025 is a Silver Jubilee celebration of the International Mother Language Day. The year marks the 25th anniversary of the UNESCO-declared observance, reinforcing the significance of linguistic diversity, multilingual education and the preservation of indigenous languages. The theme also highlights the progress made in language preservation over the years and encourages global efforts to further protect endangered languages and promote cultural heritage. Pakistan Mother Language Literature Festival is being held from 21st till 23rd of February at the Pakistan National Council of Arts in Islamabad as a key event in celebrating International Mother Language Day. Well, moving towards the second news that we have for today, of course, moving towards the Toronto airplane crash of Delta Airlines, where the US Airlines Delta has offered $30,000 to each passengers on a plane that crashed as it landed in Toronto airport this week and turned upside down. This gesture has no strings attached and does not affect rights of the passengers, a company spokesperson said. On Monday, a Delta Airlines plane that departed from the US city of Minneapolis, Minnesota, hit the runway at Toronto and crashed. A fireball and thick plumes of black smoke engulfed the plane. The paramedic services said emergency responders dealt with various injuries amongst the passengers. An investigation has also been launched. Dramatic footage of the crash posted on social media and verified by the AFP on Tuesday showed the Bombardier CRJ 900 coming into land before slamming into the runway. Toronto crash was the latest in a recent string of air incidents in North America. Investigation has been launched into the cause of the accident. With that, that's all we have from Newsroom for today. We discussed both of our two top segments and we also gave you the news that we have for today. See you same time on Monday. Till then, take care.